Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Performance Cafe. So, yes, year end. It is the end of the year. We are busy getting ready to go away for the festive season in South Africa. Certainly, it's also our summer holidays, so it's such a big thing. And we spoke last week about having a little bit of a reflection session with team members to chat to them about what happened throughout the year, how they felt about their achievements, the learnings they had, and the like. And I think the big thing for me is very often, and I really think this came about somewhere in COVID, we realized how uncomfortable managers and team leaders can be about having, sort of like a more personal, professional discussion with their team member. Certainly, it's not unprofessional, but it does mean that we actually get to know the person. And so I thought, after last week, providing a couple of topics to discuss. So, one of the things I thought that we could do is maybe dig into how do we set the stage for these discussions and how do we make sure that people understand this is not a performance management discussion. This is just about reflecting on the year and celebrating successes. So, firstly, I did mention last time to consider a casual setting. And I think that for me, there's always a thing about breaking bread, having coffee. It just gives things a different tone. And so I think outside of the office, especially if you're going to be having this discussion, don't do it in the canteen at the office where either you'll be interrupted, other people will think they can come and sit with you. Really, just walk down the block, just go to the local Starbucks and go and do it there. And I think the point is about it's a friendly, open atmosphere. It is not the office. It is not, it's not sort of bogged down in that feeling. I spoke about starting with a personal update. And I think that this is another way that we're setting the tone because it's about talking about myself as a person. I think so often people got used to dealing with team members as computers, as just another piece of machinery. And so their personal well being or any updates about themselves, their home lives, whatever, it becomes overlooked because I don't want to get too close. I'm the manager. I've got to keep a boundary. I'm all for that boundary. But I do think that, we also have to understand that the people who work for us are humans. They have personal lives, and actually it sometimes helps to understand where they are in it. I also think that, sharing things like what hobbies you enjoy, what activities you like doing over a weekend or after hours, it also gives people a look into your life without it getting too personal. I also think that the language that we use is fairly important. So I wouldn't go for very formal or very technical language, but rather think of it as if you were meeting with a peer after hours and discussing the day at work, or you were discussing the day at work with your spouse, and you'd be, you wouldn't be using like the acronyms and getting all formal. You'd be talking just about like the real experience. Often we think that, often we will come with thinking language, and sometimes it's better just to come from from a feeling perspective where we say, how did that make you feel, Or I really felt like in that moment, that's what I felt was going wrong. Really just conversational, informal, it's a chat. I think it's also important to share your own reflections because you see, it's difficult if you're in this discussion with someone and you are just pumping out these questions. And I gave quite a few of them in the previous video. But if you say, I was thinking about this question, this is what I came up with. Did you have something similar? People can see that you are open to creating a dialogue, that there's equality to some extent in this conversation, that it's not just, oh, I'm pummeling you for information or trying to understand just you. You're not under this microscope and I'm going to see the moment you do something wrong. And when it comes to sharing your own reflections, 2 or 3 weeks ago now, you will be able to see that we did do videos on how to help yourself reflect on the past year and the learnings, the challenges, all that kind of stuff. So prepare that document for yourself. Go through those thoughts for yourself, and you'll have ample fodder to share with whoever you're having this discussion with. And then also express appreciation sincerely. And, I think there's sort of a, hey ho, here's you've achieved this, you were the best salesperson, whatever. I think those things have value, and I think awards and recognition and stuff like that has value from that perspective. But what I think sometimes we don't acknowledge is the little things that people do in the team that doesn't make them the best person in the team, but helps helps the team be the best. So, for example, and be very specific about this. It's like, I'm aware that you helped so and so on that campaign, and if you hadn't helped, they probably wouldn't have gotten the work finished. Or I noticed, I'm aware that you were going the extra mile on this particular spreadsheet you were working on, and I thought it was a lovely touch. I know that it's not normally part of the standard policy, but I really enjoyed what you showed us there. So I think also, if they've helped you particularly, to express that appreciation, because sometimes, as I said, business is about being busy. So in that moment, we don't actually express gratitude appropriately. I think that part of this conversation is also about having a lot of open-ended questions. And the idea is not that you are going to feed them a line that they have to stick to, but that really you're just asking out of curiosity. And it's interesting, but curiosity about people, about what they think, what they feel, about their environments and their lives, that is considered empathy. So really just being curious is already a great way to pitch up in this conversation. So, how did you experience that? What were your feelings around that? And never a question of like, did you like that project? Yes or no. It's like, did you enjoy that project? And what about it? Did you particularly enjoy? What were the areas you felt you really contributed? Yeah, no opportunity for a yes, no answer. All open-ended questions, so the person has an ability to express themselves fully, and you can learn the most from the discussion. This is also a great place to have a bit of humor. Make sure that this doesn't turn into a 20 questions, that it doesn't turn into a, like I'm going to pointedly ask you these questions. It's so funny. Sometimes when we ask managers to do these things, they sort of take the 20 questions and they go, okay, I'm asking the question, I'm asking the question, I'm asking the question, I'm asking the question. It becomes a checklist on, I've got to finish the questions, instead of actually, what am I learning from this? And there's always place to inject a little bit of humor into the process, so that, we can share anecdotes. We can use humor to also diffuse maybe points that were, causing a bit of friction. I remember we had what's called a caucus board in one of our teams at a point, and people would write up there everything that people said that was wrong. And eventually it became the board where we posted funny things, because once we had debriefed what happened with people and we could actually get to that point where we see the funny side of stories, we also learned that making mistakes, it can turn into something else. It doesn't always have to be a disaster. It can turn into a funny story. It can turn into a learning, whatever the case may be. But certainly use a bit of humor in this conversation. And then don't hold back on positive reinforcement. So focus on the positive aspects of the performance and the contributions. Reinforce the strengths and emphasize how much this person is valued in the team, why they were the particular person that was able to deliver this. Because you see, very often we leave people when they do things well, we leave them because they're already doing it well. But sometimes they don't realize they're doing it well. They just start getting into trouble for it. So they're going to focus on what they did wrong. However, if we say, I can see because of XYZ, ABC happened, I really appreciate that. It showed them they were right and that they were valued for what they did. And then always don't hold back from talking about personal growth. A lot of people will hold back on personal growth because they go, well, what if a person tells me they want to change like roles entirely and leave the company? Well, it was going to come out at some point. Best to know earlier rather than later. So feel free to discuss, where do they want to grow to? What do they want to learn? Do they like the company? Do they feel like the company is the place for them? Do they feel the company is a short-term place for them or a long-term place? And this is sort of the place where you've created the safe space because of the nature of the discussion, that what they say here doesn't get held against them, and make sure that it doesn't. But it is always better to know where your people are on the journey. And if someone says to you, I don't think this is the business for me, I don't think this is the team for me, rejoice. You know why? Because then you've got someone who wants to grow, who wants to learn, who wants to excel. And rather try and find ways of keeping them there by giving them those opportunities. Because if they start learning and growing, hopefully they'll inspire more people in the team to do the same. And then again, I spoke previously about setting goals collaboratively. But I think that this is one of those places again where make sure that you're digging into those goals a little to make sure what's important about it to the person. You don't have to flesh out the entire goal. You don't have to flesh out the solution by any means. As we said, leave that till the beginning of the year. But I think understanding what provides that person with a sense of ownership, what will make that person feel like they have a partnership in what's happening in the organization? What is it that they want to do? What is it that they feel like, if I get out of bed this morning and I can do this, that's going to make me engage even more. That's going to make me participate even more, because that's where hard work comes from. So really understand in the safe space that you've created where they want to be. Who do they want to be? What is their identity? How do they see themselves? So that they can grow positively within your team and within your organization. And then tie up this very positive discussion with another positive note and say to them, we've started this discussion, now go, have your holiday, rest, relax. Come back next year and we're going to dig into some of these points and show them how you want to collaborate and cooperate with them, how you want them in the team, and how you want to do stuff that is actually good for them. And I promise you that I think even when they come back from leave, not that it's the point of doing it at all, but even when they come back from leave, they might have even more ideas on how they could be a better employee, can collaborate better with a team, etc. So I hope that there was enough meat in this video for you to really set up this conversation and have it as a way that creates a safe space for people to really reflect on their year and see how they'd like to do better next year. If you've enjoyed looking at this video and you're looking for more, we record these and upload them as videos to YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Related articles can be found on my website, performforward.com. And then if you have any questions or suggestions for topics, please leave a comment on your platform of choice. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Until then, I'll see you next Wednesday at the Performance Cafe. And where's that coffee?